Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to CLS Live. This is a live stream series brought to you by the publishers of Contact Lens Spectrum. I am today's host once again. My name is Philip Morgan, and I'm bidding you a good afternoon from a cold and wintry Manchester in the UK. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you if you're watching us live from wherever you are in the world. In this current short run of broadcasts, we've been looking at the situation of contact lens prescribing around the world, and what we found so far is considerable variation in what's going on, whether we've looked at Europe as we did in October or whether we look across Asia as we did last month in November. And today I'm delighted to say we're going to be looking at the situation across Latin America. Latin America, of course, is a very large region geographically, encompassing lots of countries, and you'll not be surprised to learn that the situation for contact lenses can vary quite considerably across the region. So we're going to be getting into some detail today, and hopefully we'll pick out some of these major differences. Now, as we go through the session today, for those of you watching live, you can please send in any comments here on the StreamYard interface or whatever interface you're watching on. We're going off into different platforms, but if you post your question or comment, they will come to me. I'll see these on my computer screen here, and between me and our guest this afternoon, I'll endeavor to answer those questions. So I've mentioned our guest, and I'm very delighted to say that we're joined today from Colombia by a colleague of mine, Professor Martin Edison Geraldo Mendevelso. Martin joins us from Bogota. He is an optometrist who specializes in the anterior segment and in contact lenses. He's currently on the faculty of the optometry program at De La Salle University in Bogota in Colombia. He's also has an external role as being regional director for Latin America for the International Association of Contact Lens Educators. So Martin, good morning to you. Many thanks for joining us today here on CLS Live.
Good morning. For me, it's an honor to share this space of conversation with you.
Okay, well, thank you for that. We're going to pick your brains on what's happening in across Latin America. I think the first question, I think I've asked this on all of these recent broadcasts because it's such a fascinating one. How are contact lenses regulated across the Latin America region? Can they just be purchased in any store, or do patients need to have a prescription for that?
We had a conversation with Guillermo Carrillo last week about the situation in Latin America, and we had a very interesting points. So we had different scenarios in Latin America of prescribing contact lenses. In countries like Brazil, for example, is only a skill from ophthalmologist. In countries like Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Venezuela, the prescription is needed for the optometrist professional level. And there are other countries like Argentina and Chile. The prescription is technical, the educational technical level. They have 2 years of formation, and they have the ability of prescribing contact lenses, and the regulations of the laws are so different. They are so heterogeneous in Latin America.
Okay, so really quite a broad range of requirements there. But just to confirm then, it sounds like you need a prescription in most countries across Latin America. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In the most of countries, we need a prescription from the optometrist of the professional.
Okay, I think that's reassuring to know. What about internet purchasing? Are contact lenses purchased on the internet quite widely across Latin America, or is that an unusual situation?
Unfortunately, there's usual. There is a kind of free market in contact lenses. For example, in Colombia, it's free. Any people can buy contact lenses on internet. We have thought about it as a professionals. We have the consciousness of the need of prescribing contact lenses in personal and a professional level, but the people can buy it freely. In other countries, is like restricted. For example, cosmetic contact lenses, but there is a free market. We have to thought about it.
Okay, so for example, then in Colombia, if a patient goes to the internet to purchase contact lenses, do they need to upload a prescription or anything to the website, or is it easier than that? They can just buy what they want?
Yes, there are conditions. There are conditions. For example, if people want to buy online the contact lenses, the platform requires the prescription, but it's not totally regulated. We have no control of of the prescription and the customers from contact lens prescription in online.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's move, Martin, thank you, to looking at the sorts of lenses which are prescribed across Latin America. Over the last week or so, I've had on my desk a proof of an article I've been writing with a number of colleagues for Contact Lens Spectrum. It's our annual review of contact lens prescribing worldwide, which will be appearing in the January issue. And one interesting observation I made when writing this was we surveyed 22 markets in this year, in 2022. In many places, when we look at daily disposable prescribing, in many countries we see of soft lenses, 60%, maybe 50% of soft lenses are daily disposables. In this year, 2022, we only surveyed 3 countries across Latin America: Argentina, Mexico, and Colombia. But they are the lowest 3 countries for daily disposables out of that cohort. Less than 10% of soft lenses prescribed are daily disposables. What's happening there? Why might the uptake of daily disposables be lower in some Latin American markets than in many other parts of the world?
It's an ironic situation because Colombia and Mexico have the highest level of education in contact lenses. But definitely, I think there is a cultural issue. Professionals are not proactive of recommending contact lenses daily disposable because they think they are expensive. But if you add the cost of the lenses, the care products, maybe it's almost the same than monthly lenses, for example. Professionals don't like or don't have the improvement or recommendation that type of lenses because the patient have the fault too. For example, patient thinks that if the contact lens lasts longer, it's a good quality, but that's not true. For example, if you recommend a contact lens monthly, maybe the patient use it for 2 months or 3 months. There's a fear of recommend one day disposable because the patient would use it for a week or a month. I don't know. We have to change the mind, really. Other thing is that the market, the industry, don't distribute that kind of lenses because they are not sold in Latin America. We have to change the mind, change the culture. We need more education to patients and more proactive professionally recommended the benefits of the daily disposable lenses.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating insight, Martin. Thank you. I do know, though, when we've looked at other markets around the world, markets which historically had quite a low uptake of daily disposables, there is, I think, a number of precedents where there can be a dramatic and quite sudden increase in the popularity of daily disposables. I think once there is a sort of a swell of activity in this area, then it spreads amongst optometrists locally, and we go from a few years with very low prescribing, and in just 2 or 3 years, it can increase quite dramatically. We saw this in Australia about 10 years ago as an example. So something to watch out for in the coming years. What about myopia management, Martin? Myopia control, what's happening there? Are you seeing a lot of activity in that with children or not so much?
I think myopia control has grown little by little. There's a fear of feeding a special contact lens designed in myopia control. For example, orthokeratology, it's has a low prescription in Latin American countries because maybe the lack of education, of training about these special designs. But a good thing is that professionals have a good interest in learning about myopia control. For example, last year we had the Congress class last November, and myopia control was one of the most biggest interests in training, and the professional wants to learn more about myopia control. Here in La Salle University, there is a pediatric specialization in optometry, and we want to improve the training in contact lens management of myopia. It's little by little, we have more interest. Professionals want to control myopia, not only the prescription and the correction itself. Professionals want to learn more about how to create more healthy habits and better prescription and better control of myopia. It's growing little by little. I think we need more education, more change of mind too, but it's a progress in Latin America, definitely.
Okay, well that's good to hear. It really is, of course, such a fascinating aspect nowadays of contact lens practice. So I'm good to hear that it's getting hold in Latin America too. Earlier on you mentioned Brazil being a largely ophthalmology market, of course, the biggest country in Latin America, most populous. So it's an important market for us to consider. I know that there's been some important changes for the regulation of optometry in Brazil in recent months, things that potentially could affect contact lens practice. Perhaps you can bring me and our audience today up to date, Martin, on what's happening with optometry in Brazil at the moment.
To afford the situation is difficult, yes, because as you said, ophthalmologists have all the control of optometry and contact lens prescription, even prescription of refractive error itself. The law is growing little by little. It's a little progress, but it's hard now for the optometrists of the technician to prescribe contact lenses freely. Is not easy now. They are working on law. They are working on regulation of the permission for optometrists and training for that. But it will take a long time too. It's difficult. It's the biggest market, but that kind of situation stops the exercise in optometry and contact lens training and fitting.
Sure. Well, okay. Well, I guess what we see in Brazil is similar. Each region seems to have its equivalent of Brazil. We have that in Europe, in France, for example, which is largely ophthalmology dominated. Some parts of Eastern Europe too, and of course Japan, very much an ophthalmology based market for contact lenses in Asia. So we watch developments there closely, but hopefully the very high standard of optometry in countries like Colombia can sort of spread the messages, and we can see some developments for our colleagues in optometry in Brazil, hopefully in the coming years. Okay, well, talking about the coming years, Martin, let's look a little bit ahead. What changes might we expect to see in Latin America in the coming years? Can you give us a sense of what you might see coming down the line?
Okay, we have an illusion of making a lot of programs in improving the training of contact lenses because there are different levels of education. We would like to unify the training and the skills of the professionals. For example, technicians, professionals, and all kind of fitting of contact lenses. We want to unify the criteria and the terms of fitting contact lenses. We want to improve the training programs. We want to improve the hybrid education programs. COVID pandemic teach us a lot of educational strategies that we have to adopt in the future. We need more support for the industry. I know that the next years will be a hard situation, economic recession, in the world, but we have to afford it and don't leave the need of support the professional, the feeding professional in contact lenses, because we need more skills, we need more commitment, we need more exercise of avoiding patients with keratoconus, special contact lenses, refractive errors, and amblyopia. We have a lot of potential, and we have to work about it. We want to improve the education to the patient. Contact lens need publicity in what is the benefit of fitting contact lenses. People don't know it. People need to know what is important, that we have another kind of criteria of contact lens adaptation and contact lens prescribing, that it's safe. Some people believe that contact lens is bad for the ocular health. The public health is other issue in working in the future.
Well, that's really interesting. If we are to see some unification or consistency of contact lens practice and optometry more generally across the region, how might you see this happen? Is there a professional body that might sort of lead this? Is it the World Council of Optometry, perhaps, or one of the professional organizations in Colombia? Who might take a leadership role, do you think?
Yes, for example, Mexico and Colombia are leaders in Latin America in contact lens training. We have to improve this training in other countries. Other programs, other events like World Congress or Latin American Congress in Colombia. In fact, we will work in a face-to-face meeting organized by IACUL. We have to invite all the professionals for Latin America for unify the capacitation, the training in contact lenses, and to share experiences between countries. That's our illusion.
Yes, okay. Well, obviously, Martin, we're both heavily involved with IACL, so I do hope that we as an organisation, as IACL, can help and bring some improvements and consistency across the region in contact lenses. Well, we're starting to run out of time, Martin. Final question for you today is something I've asked on all of these recent broadcasts, and that is, which part of contact lens practice do you feel is important, but perhaps does not receive enough attention?
Oh, it's a very important question, because professionals need to improve the consciousness that fitting contact lenses requires more follow-up to the patient. Sometimes we fit the contact lenses and the patient leave and don't get the control. Contact lenses, so it's a very delicate medical disposable in the eye, and it can occur some of complications. We need a more consciousness about the follow-up to the patient, control complications. We need more skills in special contact lenses. We need more training, really. Maybe the fitting of contact lenses is so informal sometimes, and we need to improve the consciousness of how difficult and how important and how responsible has to be the fitting contact lenses for the professionals.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Lenses are better than they've ever been, but fundamentally they're still a medical device that sits on the front of the eye, and so yeah, they do still warrant respect and careful education and attention. Martin, thanks very much for joining us today, sharing your expertise and insights about the situation across Latin America. And I hope everybody that's watching maybe will have heard something to inspire you a little bit to bring the benefits of contact lenses to even more people. Now, earlier on, I mentioned some of the work we've done this year in assessing the situation of contact lens prescribing around the world. And our 2022 report will feature in the January issue of Contact Lens Spectrum. So if you've enjoyed what we've talked about today and these discussions in recent months, then please look out for that. Next month, I'll be back again with Dr. Jason Jedlicka, where we'll be talking about my discussions with colleagues over the last 3 months, what we've learned about contact lens prescribing around the world, where there are differences, and maybe what the future holds for us across the contact lens community around the world. Just a reminder that this episode and previous episodes of CLS Live are available on the Contact Lens Spectrum page on Facebook or at clspectrum.com. And transcripts of the show are now in the printed version of Contact Lens Spectrum every month. Well, I look forward to being with you again, joining this broadcast again in January. Until then, have a happy holiday season, and I wish you a Merry Christmas from Manchester. Thank you, and see you in January.
Thanks for the invitation.